functionality related to the Spark and all. Now let us understand, friends, how this particular big data, if I'm saying the big data kind of the convention, there are certain aspects to consider. Okay, so let me give you that ideology. So just if you are making use of the big data kind of aspects, we're having two things. One is, of course, definitely Hadoop ecosystem. Okay, and second is the Spark. So a little background already we have seen, like, where we have observed some sort of distinction why Spark is booming potentiality due to its batch processing and as well as disk IO. Okay, these two aspects are heavily, pulling down the Hadoop ecosystem. Okay, from the developers. Whereas if I am talking about the Spark orientation, friends, it is iterative and interactive, and we're having some sort of the streaming support, friends. Okay, so like batch processing always may not be helping us, guys. Like whatever the functionality we are doing, we have to wait, and that too every time, even for the temporary kind of the database also, or management also, just it is going back and picking the data from the disk. Now to simplify those kind of the aspects, so as to avoid the usage of the disk, just we're having the support of the Spark, iterative, interactive, or streaming kind of the aspects. Now let me introduce the kind of data partitioning. And of course, data partitioning exclusively we are going to talk, and we are going to talk about how to get the number of partitions, repartition, and all these kind of the things. Definitely we'll see that. But before that, we have to understand these terminologies, guys: map, reduce, and combiner. Because these three things in the earlier session also, while dealing with the Spark architecture, and thereafter already we have seen some RDD orientation. So in that particular case also, there is a revisit of this map, reduce, and combiner. Let me give you this convention, friends, in the context of the Hadoop ecosystem. Because why I am referring this Hadoop ecosystem in terms of PySpark also is because these two are complementary aspects, guys. Like, Hadoop is fully designed and with respect of distributed environment where it is ready to handle bulk data. Okay, bulk data. So that on top of this Hadoop distributed file system, I can able to run my Spark. So Spark is meant for processing and as well as the in-memory computing. So if I could able to combine these two kind of the aspects, I can achieve the huge data processing. And as Spark is speed compared with the Hadoop 100 times faster, so that what you can achieve is with respect to that particular Spark specification, one can easily embed processing and as well as the data, storage. Now the point here is, so this is okay, but how to combine these two kind of the aspects? If you remember, guys, one cluster management tool we have seen in the earlier session. This is the ARN. Can someone type in the chat window which are all the cluster management tools supported by Spark, friends? Cluster management tools I'm asking. Cluster management, not the deployment or something. We have seen some sort of cluster management.
Mesos and
Mesos,
Yarn.
ARN, very good. Then
Kubernetes.
Standalone is there also.
Kubernetes.
Yes.
Then any other?
Standalone. Standalone.
Standalone.
Standalone. Very good. Very good, friends. That is the cheerness. Yes. Okay. Now, can someone give me what is the default cluster management tool for Spark? Default
Mesos, I guess.
Mesos. Okay.
Mesos.
Mesos. Okay. Now, but friends, one point I want to ask you here: why Anne has grabbed the why how ARN got first place compared with Mesos? Can someone help me to understand that? What is the reason, guys? What is the reason? Because out of the 10-member team, one or two members always have their potentiality.
Because PySpark is used in above the yarn.
Excellent. Because guys, that time, okay, that time, already Hadoop is famous, but only complaint on Hadoop is our MapReduce is heavily programmed. Though the programmers who are having the inclination of the Java or having the inclination of the Python, but still they are struggling. Each and everything should be converted into the MapReduce orientation. They have to think through in the key value pairs. I'll introduce you guys what exactly key value while dealing with the map, but I'm setting the context. Okay. Now the problem here is, guys, just if you are making use of the Hadoop. Okay. So Hadoop already utilizing at another resource negotiator, ARM. And on top of this particular ARM, Hadoop is gaining the potentiality. There is a proven experience of this particular ARM by the developers. Developers habituated, because we also now though practically we don't have any differentiation between AWS, GCP or Microsoft Azure. But if we are habituated to use Azure or AWS or GCP, then we want to stick on to these kind of the cluster or Cloudera manager tools in the next project also, because the way we interact with that particular tool, especially the development environment, guys. I hope all you guys are would have faced this kind of intimacy with respect to the tools, right? So that is how the people. But here, apart from these kind of the convention, and the people felt that, okay, so initially, as our friends rightly said, Spark is tagged with Mesos as by default cluster management tool. And of course, Scala, which is, of course, guys, I'll scope one or two sessions. Definitely, I love Scala. Reason is, guys, simple. It is a fully functional programming and fully object oriented programming. And from the first program itself, Scala stick to that particular point. Okay, fully functional, fully object oriented. So, but our people are habituated to use, I mean, Python or else Java or else R programming like that. So they asked the Spark team, okay, because that time they are very aggressive and they are ready to give, ready to, because basically they are researchers. Research, suppose if I'm having some sort of the data and I applied some kind of the pre-processing, maybe Akhil or somebody joined in my team and they want, a Dr. Uma, this is not the way. And can we go with some unstructured data? Definitely, as a researcher, the researching mentality is something like integration, friends, actually. Okay, then I can realize, okay, no problem, Akhil, you can go ahead and please let me know how do I integrate these kind of things. So that is a collaboration. So they demanded these guys, Python and Java, all these kind of guys. Now, can you release the version? Okay, can you release the version of the Python? And we want to test on top of the air. Actually, two changes, friends, here. One is Spark's default mesos. They want to exhibit in the air. Another is, rather than using Scala, they want to venture their application running in Python. And guys, the technocrafts and as well as the technological guys and researchers, they won't spend much time to integrate the new things. Okay, within the short span of the time, they released PySpark, and of course, our people successfully tested on top of the air, and they can record the appropriate functionality in terms of space and as well as the timing. Excellent results they produced, guys. That is, though Mesos and Scala are the native kind of aspects, but apart from those kind of the convention, now we are using air and as well as the PySpark related to our Spark kind of the aspect. So that is what sometimes, the research and the out of scope kind of thing definitely give us some sort of advancement, some sort of understanding, right? Okay, so these things are very clear and we are very convinced the way because always studying the history and knowing the facts behind the design of the appropriate tool is quite interesting. Okay, the same thing is not different in terms of the Spark also. But now the point is, how can we accommodate Hadoop? Because one of the major strength of this Hadoop ecosystem is its storage and as well as its availability. Okay, and it is very it is only the missing aspect is machine learning kind of thing, some sort of the API. So what they felt is, of course, Spark is very good in ML kind of the API. Why can't we integrate these two as a complement so that we can enjoy the benefit of this Hadoop reliability and availability along with the massive storage? And of course, Spark, however, we are having the in-memory computing so that we can enjoy the benefits of fastness of the programming. And of course, in between, we are having ARN also. ARN is already running on top. I mean, on top of this ARN, Hadoop is also running. And of course, now Spark is also running on top of the ARN. There is no barrier at all. At this moment, they felt that if I could able to integrate these two kind of the big data scenarios, I can get the deadly combo, like in terms of the storage and in terms of the processing. Now the point is, how do I reference? Because Spark, however, there is a straightforward narration like RDD, and then we are having the data frames, and then we are having the optimizations because always our Spark is talking in terms of these things. And of course, for the SQL based kind of the people, we are having the Spark SQL. These are all the conventions, very straightforward in Spark, guys. But Hadoop, architecture wise, it is having very heavy kind of the support in terms of the map, reduce, and as well as the combiner. Now let us understand how do we refer these kind of the convention. Okay, picture speaks more than words now. Obviously, let me pull some kind of the image where it is going to explain us the kind of narration related to the mapper functionality. Okay, so hope you're all with me, guys. Okay, right. One simple thing, if you consider, guys, just let me ask you this question in terms of Amazon or in terms of Twitter or whichever. So maybe suppose assume that if you are referencing the Twitter or Amazon, I want to get the pulse of the pulse of the customers in the sense whether they are purchasing the books or whether they are going with the Kindle edition or whether they are going with the audio books. Okay, I want to literally identify what is the trend. Okay, in that particular case, just it is enough to count. It is enough to get the count of or the computing of the total number of users who are attracted for the book reading, who are attracted for the audio kind of the recordings, all these kind of the conventions. So the standard practice by big data developers is to study about the word count process, friends. Word count is not only simple counting or scoping of these particular aspect. If I am saying, if I'm using the Amazon or Twitter kind of the case study, then obviously, friends, these things will give that majority of the members, okay, what they are purchasing and how the trend is going on. Okay, now in that particular thing, we are having the concept of mapping and we need to study the reduce aspect. Now the people who attended the Hadoop sessions conducted by me pretty aware of this particular diagram and they can easily explain the aspect. But let me take the chance of okay explaining by me only so that if you are having any doubts, then I can pull those guys so that they can answer you. Okay, it's a kind of interaction, right? Okay. Now, observe here, guys. Especially in Hadoop, there are certain phases actually. This is what you call the split phase. This is what you call the shuffle phase. I mean, map phase. And third is the shuffle phase. Finally is the reduce phase. Now, observe here, guys. This particular split you need not do. automatically the framework does that. Hadoop framework take care about the splitting of the data, whatever the input you are giving, and that input is split into the records. That is by default handled by the Hadoop framework. Mapping, we need to specify the logic. Na? Definitely, I need to pick up the record, and according to my requirement, I have to perform some activity. So this is definitely the developer activity. Okay, mapping. I will explain what exactly the mapping and all. Coming to the shuffle phase, if you keenly observe, guys, this diagram, shuffle arranged the appropriate data items, and it is maintaining the alphabetical order. Okay, the appropriate relevant aspects are combined and they are arranged in a neat order. So this is a common thing, sorting, arrangement of the corresponding aspects. This is also done by the framework, friends. Actually, this is also framework activity. So getting the data, splitting up that particular data into the records, and as well as after performing that particular splitting process by the Hadoop framework, we're having the developer phase where the developer can establish his or her logic so that they can manage the convention of the mapping. Coming to the other aspect, which is the shuffle phase, guys. So this particular shuffling is something like where I'm going to arrange the data and I'm managing this particular data with respect to shuffle, and you need not have to perform any explicit logic. Automatically, Hadoop framework take care about this particular shuffle phase. Next is the reduce phase. Reduce phase also, as per our requirement, we need to design the logic. This is also the developer phase. So whatever we are studying, that's what we left with map and as well as the reduce, rather than studying about the split and as well as the shuffle. So splitting and as well as the shuffling phase related to the framework, and you need not worry about that. Automatically based on the input data, your Hadoop framework will take care about that. Similar to the shuffle phase. Let us try to understand the map phase. Just after getting the information from the split phase, friends, one important point we need to observe in the map reduce scenario, we need to handle the key value pairs. Of course, the people who are having the knowledge on Python, they might be knowing about this dictionary concept. Okay, dictionary is something like where we are managing our data with respect to the key value pairs like employee number, employee name, qualification, skill, experience, like that you can maintain the key and the corresponding value. Similarly, every MapReduce program, no matter whether you are using the Java or else the Python, okay, in whichever the environment, your Hadoop MapReduce demands, okay, whatever the functionality I'm having, that particular functionality must be split into the key value pair. So once the data is split into the records, then in the map phase, the developer should create the appropriate map phase or design the logic in such a way that he should able to transform that information or record set into the key value pair. Okay, so here whatever the requirement, whatever the words we're having, just all those things were specified as a key. And if you observe, guys, just what we are doing is we are just putting one after each word. So literally, to handle the word count process in terms of the mapping, whatever the record I'm having, first we need to split the entire line into a word and we have to fix that particular one. So deer comma one, bear comma one, river comma one, car comma one, car comma one, and river comma one, deer comma one, car comma one, and bear comma one. Like that, we are going to map the appropriate records into the key value pair. That is the important point to identify. Once the mapping phase is over, guys, just what we need to do is we have to shuffle, because this particular shuffle is something like to arrange the data so as to maintain this particular data in the alphabetical order. If you observe, so just B, C, D, and as well as R. And one of the important doubt you may be getting, okay, we are having this particular car twice. Why can't we add that particular aggregation here? That is not the case, guys. No matter whether the word is repeating or it is not repeating. So just we need to follow up this particular mapping phase in such a way that just that word and as well as the one. Likewise, we are populating. and your question will be answered in the combiner logic actually. That question should arise, guys, because after seeing this particular convention, you may feel that why I need to carry these multiple cars or multiple bears until the outcome. Okay, your thought process is exactly correct. Okay, if you are thinking in that direction, definitely you are thinking in the next step actually. If you are making use of the next step thinking, they always it will give you the pleasure of learning. Now the point here is, guys, once the shuffle phase is over, what the reduce does is reduce is somewhat aggregation. Okay, aggregation in the sense bear twice, car appeared twice, and as well as deer appeared twice, river appeared twice. And now this is going to finally store into the Hadoop distributed file system, whatever the outcome I am having. So your input must be in the Hadoop distributed file system. And of course, it maintains the disk orientation and then performing all the splitting, mapping, shuffling, and as well as the reduce aspect. And once these particular 4-step process is over, just our data is going to shed into our Hadoop distributed file system output. Okay, so this is how you need to observe the map phase and as well as the reduce phase in a simplest way, guys. Okay, let me write this way: map, picking the records from the split phase and convert. Okay, convert each record into key value pair based on the logic. Okay, friends, just this is the map phase. Whereas if you are considering the reduce phase, okay, na? So reduce phase, get the input data. Input data where reduce is getting, guys. Can someone help me? Where this reduce is getting the input data from?
Shuffle.
From shuffle.
Shuffle phase. X. Right. From the shuffle phase and aggregate the same as per the logic. That's all simple. Okay, na? So nothing because we are not using, however, the map reduce orientation in the programming. We need not worry about the logic to implement and all, but we have to understand, friends, actually what is the behind scenes, what is the usage of these kind of the convention. That point we have to observe. Now you got one doubt actually here. Okay, though these kind of the things are repeating, but how come we are carrying this particular aspect? Can someone help me? Suppose if I am not aggregating here, if I am allowing this particular map or shuffle to capture and carry the repeated words, though they are repeated without doing any aggregation or without writing any logic so as to combine those kind of the aspects, what could be the problem, guys? Think through, think through. Just
If
yeah,
comparison
go ahead.
comparison problem,
Akhil, comparison.
we will get comparison problem. That's why we are sorting.
That is one thing. No, what I'm asking is, I'll put this my question in this way, Akhil, otherwise. So rather than aggregating here, okay, like I'm not aggregating here, just car comma one, car comma one, and I could able to perform the aggregation. But why we are leaving and why, of course, if we are leaving like that without adding multiple words, though they are repeated, they are not the unique words, friends. If they are unique words, then we are happy. And moreover, this case study, initially I have given a hint, like in Amazon or Twitter, whichever the functionality I'm having. So there, repeated things are most important. Repeated things in the sense maybe the customers or maybe the users in the age group of 18 to 25, they are purchasing the books Hadoop, the Definite Guide, or Metije Harrier Spark, or else some sort of the audio books, something like that they are interested. So between 18 to 25, many of the people are attracted to audio files rather than the printed books. So that conclusion we had. Now the point is, I'm asking, if I am not combining these kind of things, if I'm not aggregating anything, just I'm as it isly placing the data into the further steps. Now the point is, if I am able to aggregate here only, what would be the advantage? Rather than leaving them, rather than allowing my individual, I mean repeated words individually, if I am able to combine them, if I am able to aggregate them, what would be the advantage? Yeah.
Duplication will
For
occur.
analytic purpose.
Who is that? Shanmugana?
Sir,
No, this is Nisha.
Nisha, you are thinking in terms of machine learning. Okay, so
sir,
definitely I'll come to that
duplication will
analytics and
occur.
all. What is
Sure,
that?
sure.
Duplication will occur.
Sahu, duplication already there, man. So like
No,
duplication
sir.
already there. Ah, mm, mm,
If we don't group them, like all these mapping is happening in different nodes. So different
ah,
workers are doing that. If we don't shuffle them, then we can't
ah,
find which worker is having how many values of one instance.
ah.
So in
Ac-
that case, that will be like fault tolerance won't be happening. On
mm.
yeah,
Yeah, you are going
Also,
too ahead, man.
also, sir,
You are going too ahead.
also,
Yeah, go
also,
ahead,
sir,
Vedant. Tell me.
sir,
Yeah,
also, into mapping, if you're not, combining it together, so it will be a
Mayur.
waste of the machine. So reducers need to
actually,
do more work
Excellent.
in that case.
Excellent. Who is that? Surendra or Mayur?
Sir Surendra.
Surendra. I know Surendra because he always come up with some neat analogy and I need not reshuffle any words. Excellent, Surendra. Because whatever he said, like he has used some terminology. Can you come again, Surendra? Once more?
So, sir, in the case of mapping, if you see we are having
Ah,
car
ah,
and car one and one, so it is going into shuffling directly. So
correct.
instead of that, we could have used combiners over there, and we could have brought car two directly into shuffling. So in that case,
Exactly.
mappers can do more work and reducers can do less work. So that will be a efficient use of machines. But if in this
Perfect.
case, machines are doing the machines which have mappers are doing less work, so that is
Ah,
not an efficient way.
imbalance.
Yep.
Imbalance. And one more thing, guys, here, as our friend rightly said, programmatically data sharing wise it is imbalance because as he said mapper is not doing anything, simply it is posting, it is not logically doing anything, and entire burden is coming to the reducer, guys. Actually entire burden is coming to the reducer. And one more thing, guys, just to think through, suppose I'm having 100 words which are repeated. If I able to combine as one word, think about the network bandwidth. So I'm making use of, suppose in the master slave architecture, what we have said, there is always a slave need to update the information to the master. And moreover, there is a carrying of the information from map to shuffle and shuffle to reducer, like that. If you are unable to perform the combination of all the different, I mean, whatever the words repeated, if I could able to combine them as a single word, obviously I can able to utilize the network bandwidth also in the higher way. Okay, I need not waste. Suppose car, like that I'm having 100 times. See, 100 messages I'm passing, guys, actually here. But whereas if I could able to do like this is literally only one statement or one message. So the network bandwidth has been killed heavily here. Okay, that is the point where the combiner is really doing well. Okay, kudos, Surendra. Excellent. So if you are referencing the combiner logic, okay, just whatever we are analyzing here, guys, just let me introduce that particular combiner. And of course, as a byproduct, we can get the partitioner also. The point here to notify is, guys, how our combiner is able to perform the activity. Now, the same example, see here itself. Okay, rather than managing, mapping and combining, as our Surendra rightly said, mapper is not really doing any complex aspect in the normal map reduce functionality. If you see here, just it is just is splitting, and it is forwarding the same thing to the shuffle phase. But here, if you observe, if I am able to convert my mapper into the combiner phase, then and there it is going to observe, yes, I got some kind of the repetition of the same word. I can able to, okay, I can able to perform some aggregation here itself, so that in a way we can maintain the balance of the work between map and reduce, and reducer also little bit freed, because however reducer need to perform the aggregation. Okay, it's not like you may think in other way around. Okay, if I'm killing map, then what exactly reducer is doing? Reducer, however, it is having its own activity, aggregate. It has to do that, because though I'm having the aggregation here, but still there may be a possibility of getting the other data also from somewhere. Okay, other data also we are getting, like a car here. Again, we are getting some, after shuffling, we are getting some more words which are similar, so that however aggregation is happening in terms of the reducer. And in fact, this is a temporary result and reducer is the final result. Okay, that is one thing where we need to observe in terms of identification of balancing and as well as the network bandwidth. So obviously guys, rather than sharing this car comma one, car comma one twice to the shuffle, we can able to perform the activity related to this car only single time, just which greatly reduces the functionality and as well as the network bandwidth, all those kind of the conventions. Okay, the simple aspect, like with the advent of this particular combiner, we can able to this combiner acts as a local reducer. Okay, there itself, whatever the temporary results I'm having, so I may need to perform some sort of the activity related to the convention. And one more thing, friends, as Nisha already said, so don't worry, guys, your ML context will be preserved, because only the thing is, as I always recommend, don't directly go to the ML context. Why? Because without data engineering kind of the concepts, like, we are dealing with the RDD, we are dealing with the data frame, we are dealing with the optimizations. Okay. And without knowing all these kind of the conventions, if you are venturing your ML certifications, I cannot say you cannot crack, but only the thing is, you should face some complexity. Again, you have to go back to the DE concepts, and we have to scope the understanding of the machine learning algorithms and all. So what we are doing here is, however, the DE provides us some sort of understanding of the data pre-processing, okay, and some sort of feature engineering, all these kind of the convention, like missing value imputation. I'll scope that, you guys, don't worry. Okay, missing value imputation, and then feature engineering, encoding techniques, and most importantly, friends, metrics, measures or metrics of the algorithms. So without knowing these kind of the coverage in the data engineering, if you are directly going to the classification or regression, okay, or else clustering, it is a bit difficult, guys, because without knowing how metrics are influencing my classification, how metrics are influencing my regression, it is very tough to you. Okay, so as to crack the ML kind of the associate or professional exam in either way. So just will go in a smoother and logical way, so that we will be complete that particular circle of understanding what is the data pre-processing, missing value imputation, encoding techniques, all these things. Okay, this course was designed like that only, guys, to balance the data engineering and machine learning intro. How I can give is, just we are going to talk about the certification perspective, because guys, ML I need to cover means, again I need to establish some 40 to 60 hour course. Okay, but this course majorly intend to cover DE and as well as the ML aspect, and ML aspect some 10 to 15 percentage. Definitely after completion of this particular course, we are going to release that ML specifications also. And the ML, though we are using the PySpark, but ML, the problem is we need to do a lot more, guys. Whereas with the scikit-learn of the Python, we can reduce and we can have the flexibility of programming in a simplest way. Okay, so that we can scope, though otherwise the conceptual understanding All these things are common. Only implementation wise here and there some distinctions are there, and all the metrics, missing value imputation, encoding, all are common. Only the thing is, in case of the MLlib, we need to use the vector assemblers, integrations, and we have to heavily dependent on the pipelines. So that we'll compare those two aspects, so that whichever is flexible, definitely we can go ahead with that. And one thing is, your ML certification is not influenced by the MLlib. Okay, if you are understanding your scikit-learn library in a proper way, if you are able to guide which are all the metrics I can use, and if you are able to analyze the appropriate capability of the model or algorithm after completion of your implementation, then you are good to attempt that particular certification. Okay, so this is what how you can refer the orientation of mapper, reducer, and as well as the combiner. Now I'm asking you guys, so just you can put a word, maybe all these kind of the things. Map, what exactly map? One particular statement, guys. Reduce and combiner, and moreover, friends, along with these particular point, just we need to refer one more question I am asking you, like how Hadoop and Spark complement. Okay, so this point, I'll moving ahead, guys. Like before moving ahead, just I am giving you these kind of the conventions. Like put a statement related to your map, or related to your understanding, or else I can put this way. Okay, so as per your understanding, what do you mean by map, reduce, and combiner? In a simplest way, guys. Suppose maybe one new member has joined in our team. Maybe you, I am asking you guys. Okay, just you can you give the KT, which are all the technical aspects we have used in the programming, like that I asked, so that that new guy questioned you, can I know what is a map, reduce, and combiner? Maybe he's a typical engineer with 2 years of experience, absolutely new to our Hadoop or Spark kind of the environment. Then how simple you explain to that guy related to this map, reduce, and combiner? Second thing is, obvious question is, as he was recruited for the Spark kind of the projects, so he can have the follow-up question, like, guys, like, uh, can I get the interest on? Okay, why still we need to carry Hadoop? As where I have seen in many blogs, like maybe he would have done some kind of the research on that. Maybe he's asking us, coming back, why we need to keep this Hadoop in force, though we are happily enjoying with our Spark, our best friend. So how do you reply back, guys? Okay, because I can take you on the call, but only the thing is, we need to see some other aspects also, which is definitely taking more time. So that's what I'm keeping aside, picking you and allowing you to speak or something. But only the thing is, just I need your support in this way. Like just you prepare. Yeah, Shanmuga, excellent. Okay, while demonstrating, that is a massive action takers. Okay, so immediately just we are reacting. Okay, that is the Josh, guys. Actually, excellent. Okay, nice, nice. Okay, let me jump into our favorite. I mean this. Cluster. Okay, whatever the tool we are using, so that I'll come back because I want to show something new related to these partitions and all these kind of the conventions. So after completion of this particular thing, again we'll come back to the conceptual aspects. The point, guys, here why I'm worrying is programming simple, guys, because after some of the aspects in even today's session also we are going to cover a lot more, but only the connect with the concepts is more important. So for that particular purpose, what I'm doing here is just let me create a new notebook for the session 3, RDD for the discussion, so that I can post the same without any distinction. Right. So fundamentally, guys, we're having two important objects. Can you name those two objects? One is the Spark. Another is the thing, guys, Spark context. Okay, immediately because before the session, I launched this particular cluster for today's session for the demonstration. So that without wasting any delay, of course, we will cover all those aspects. However, we are not waiting for the cluster. We are dealing with we are discussing some other aspects. Okay, but now I thought of directly jumping into the cluster orientation. So I already started. Now, one more aspect, guys. Maybe some of the people would have got this doubt like, so this is the environment where our Databricks understood this object Spark, SC and something. But where there is a situation where I'm using the Kubernetes and I don't have, though I'm having the aspect of my using this Databricks, but I want to venture because sometimes, people, though we are having the notebook all flexible, but people sometimes go with the PyCharm or maybe PyTorch. Okay, especially in the deep learning or those kind of the things, because they feel that okay, that environment is happy to me. Okay, some people VC code also they may require VS code. So that is what, friends. So, the appropriate thing, the flexibility here is as a developer, if company is giving us some sort of the IDE, we should be ready to love that particular IDE, because though you are very flexible related to the environment of the notebook, there may be a possibility of or maybe client demand sometimes. Okay, in that particular case we should be having the flexibility. Why I'm bringing all these things, guys, because some context may not directly able to pick up the Spark and SC, as this is a cluster, and as this particular notebook is also backed by our Databricks. Obviously, we are enjoying the benefits of objects. But what is the behind scenes? What exactly the Spark? How do I bring Spark context or Spark session in terms of a typical Jupyter notebook where there is no direct access of the Spark and SC? Now your question will be answered like this, guys. So there is a typical import statement like this. So just IntelliSense is playing a role. PySpark dot. See how importance they have given for this SQL, guys. Okay, PySpark dot SQL. Just I'm importing. Friends, be with me. So just I'm importing Spark session. See here. So just you can consider this particular Spark session is available in PySpark.sql. Just we are trying to import that particular aspect into our current session. Okay, now I'm creating one object. Okay, to avoid the confusion, I'm giving the Spark one. I can use Spark also, no problem. But I want to keep the momentum of observation of the differentiation between Spark and as well as the Spark one. Now, how do I configure manually related to the usage of our programming? Because guys, just we are thinking in terms of traveling that extra mile. If I am not allocated with the Databricks proprietary edition, then what should I do? I need to convey my Spark and as well as the Spark context, and I have to create my such kind of the aspects programmatically. So for that case, guys, just we are having this Spark session. Okay, just there is a some other app aspects called builder, and here the point master. Actually, we are not running on ARN or something, guys. So that I am making use of the local. Okay, and then just I am putting the name of the app name as RDD further, RDD further, and then we are get or create. Okay, just we are establishing that kind of the convention. Now have a look on this, guys. Just nothing complex. Under this particular Spark session, I'm building some sort of, I'm conveying the information. Okay, I'm using this local master and my app name is RDD further, and get or create in the sense if already this particular thing is there, get it, or else you can freshly create. Now you see here, and if I'm venturing this Spark one, okay, see guys here, and if I'm giving the Spark, which is by default, now you can see the distinction actually. So let me capture this and paste in the thing so that you can also have a look on this, what I'm talking. So just if you are observing this Spark one, it is giving as we are using the Spark session. Obviously, friends, that particular Spark session is something like which is embedding Spark context, Hive context, all these kind of the convention. Apart from that, just I'm moving ahead with my default object of the Spark, where I can able to see the observation of okay how I am performing the Spark orientation and all. Okay, so now you may be having some doubt. I'm having this Spark context SC. How do I replace that? You clearly mentioned that Spark session is something where I am able to maintain the convention of the object Spark1 by imparting all these kind of the functionality. But how do I handle the Spark context? One important point, guys, if you consider Spark1, okay, if you give the tab here, I am getting the Spark context actually. Okay, so that means if I am making use of this convention spark1 dot spark context, automatically it is giving us within this particular Spark object. Can someone give the reason why Spark1 is able to point to the Spark context? Okay, why Spark1 point to the Spark context? Can someone help me, guys? This is a pure multiple times we have repeated. Even in the certification also they are asking in what way Spark context can be scoped. There is no separate scoping because your Spark session, friends, okay, your Spark session is the integration of Spark context, okay, Hive context and SQL context. Correct. Okay, so by default, friends, you need not worry about the Spark context, and explicitly I need not create any variable or any object for that. Your Spark session, whatever the thing you have created here, okay, this particular Spark1 itself, you can able to activate that particular Spark context. Okay, up to this we are happy, and there is no much differentiation. Only the thing is we can import. But my strong recommendation is, guys, programmatically, if you are picking up this particular convention by writing one or two lines of the code, definitely you can understand that. Okay, right. This particular Spark object is embedding the Spark session. Within that, we are building the master along with the app name and get or create. Moreover, guys, actually there is a distinction in between these kind of the things. Like, if you are making use of both of these kind of aspect, either Spark1 or Spark, you might have observed in both the cases your app name is Databricks shell, and here also Databricks shell. Reason behind that is, guys, very simple. Maybe intelligent members or intelligent chefs might have observed that thing. We are using the community edition, guys, so that the Databricks don't want to give the complete driving seat to us. Okay, still we are having some of the aspects which are by default maintained by the Databricks. That is the reason it is not pointing to the app name kind of the aspect. Otherwise, nothing. Okay, so simple. Both are you can either create explicitly the Spark object or else you can go ahead with the existing one. Okay, right. Now the point is I'm introducing you some sort of functionality related to the partitions. In the earlier session, Surendra asked me, what is the default partition? Can I take that 8 as a default partition? Now, along with Surendra, for all the members, you will be getting some clarification related to the partitions of the corresponding data. Okay, now let us have a look on this, guys. So please help me to understand this particular point. What I'm doing here is I want to pick up some sort of the Spark dot, some kind of the configuration information get. What I want to get is this partition information Spark dot SQL dot. Just I'm having the shuffle. Within that we're having the partitions. Within that we're having the partitions. Now this thing I want to print, because as a typical programmer, I want to understand that the number of partitions. So I want to print the information. This is the default statement where I can get the information about the Spark. So that what I'm doing here is just as typical programmer. Um, okay, the string kind of aspect, and then we can close this. So one more, right? Okay, so just observe here, guys, to under at this particular point, spark dot SQL dot shuffle dot partitions. What I'm trying here, guys, I want to get the information about the number of partitions. Okay, and programmatically, what I'm doing is a simple print. I want to pick up the number of partitions because as of now, we had a discussion on RDD creation and the parallelize, and manually we have given the data, and thereafter we have given the range, and thereafter we have picked up a CSV file or text file from the DBFS file system. That much we have seen, and some sort of the map and filter, all these things. And today, however, we are going to revisit some other aspects related to the map, flat map, and filter. Okay, so though RDD is low level kind of thing, I want to introduce those low level functionalities, friends, nothing else. And however, in from the next session onwards, we are talking about the data frame, which is a full-fledged API, full-fledged API with respect to the column creation, renaming of the column, filter, mapping, flat map, reduce by key, count by key. Many ventures are there. So excited, definitely. Okay, we will see many kind of the aspects related to data frame. Tomorrow is a bigger day compared with the day 3. Okay, so now just I want to pick up the number of partitions related to, without I'm not doing anything, just I am picking up what happened, guys. So there is a number of partitions. uh can someone help me, guys? How do I
Just
pick up
remove
this?
that comma, sir, before that plus star string.
Yes, okay, right. Now, friends, surprise, 200 partitions. See here, 200 partitions. Okay, I have not introduced you what exactly a partition. Don't worry. Just you think through, guys. Some of the things should be followed in the reverse engineering because all we are software engineers, all we are software developers. Sometimes, there may be a reverse engineering like mathematical induction kind of thing. Hold on. Just we are waiting for the waiting for our turn. Okay. Without any injection, without any observation, I can able to see that my Spark partition, okay, whatever the functionality I'm having, whatever the configuration setting I'm having, just I'm pulling that particular number of partitions. Okay, now I'm very curious. Okay, here I have not loaded any data. Okay, by default, whatever the configuration setting I'm having, Spark is able to fetch that particular data. Okay, I do agree. But suppose if I want to load some data, okay, if I want to load some data and loading of the data, guys, just we are going back here, and here I'm having the file store tables, and there is one interesting case study, friends. In further also we are working with the Yahoo stocks data, so that I pasted this particular data here. Okay, so Yahoo stocks.csv, and then we are fetching this particular data. Okay, what we are doing here is, guys, I'll be sharing this Yahoo stocks in the Teams so that you can also load your data. Okay, how to load the data, friends? Can someone give the path? Okay, no problem. Just will go back, click on the data, click on the create table. Don't go to any other option. Just you go to the DBFS. Our work is DBFS, and or else just to click on the upload file directly, and you can browse this. By default, it goes to the DBFS file store. So just if you are clicking on the browse option, obviously it leads to some sort of information, guys, where some sort of information where I'm having my all these yeah, our training, and within the third day I have kept this. No, in the second day I planned actually. So maybe Yahoo. So somewhere, no problem. So in from downloads, I could have picked up, okay, Yahoo stocks. Click on that and you open that. Wherever the location you are having, wherever you are having some sort of information, from that you can select and you can perform the activity. So once that has been uploaded, just to go back to the DBFS file store tables, then you can pick up this Yahoo stocks, whatever the information we are having. Okay, Yahoo stocks.csv. Once you click this particular file, friends, automatically it helps us the path. Okay, don't manually type. Okay, maybe you may miss out some slash or something unnecessary. Just the syntactical errors will come. How we see in the earlier command. Okay, so just to copy that, go back to our notebook. Now what we are doing is here, just I am creating a new RDD in such a way that just I can either go with the Spark 1.Spark context or directly. So both will practice Spark 1.Spark context dot some kind of the text file, and I am pasting this path. But this path directly won't work, guys. We need to give the DBFS colon and then you specify this thing. Okay, so now what we're doing here, just we are picking up some Yahoo stocks data and we are loading that particular data into my RDD. Okay, just you can run through. Okay, and so as to have a look on this kind of the convention, there are two functions, friends. One is the collect function. And let me clarify that what exactly collect and all these distinction. And another is your take function actually. I strongly recommend you guys the take function. Now itself I'll show you what is the reason. Your collect function, maybe this is having some 5,000 around records, friends. And of course, if you want to analyze maybe machine learning perspective, if you want to see all the data or if you want to understand is there any missing value, that is fine. But otherwise, to get the schema like date, open, high value, low value, closing balance, volume, and adjusted close. So it is enough to preview the data. In that particular case, you can go the take. But whereas let me give you this convention. I want to see what exactly the collect method and return a list that contains all of the elements in this RDD. Moreover, this method should only be used if the resulting array is expected to be small, as all the data is loaded into the driver's memory. Friends, see here, all the data is loaded into the driver's memory. Now, yesterday also, I mean, in the second session also, we have seen the same point. There is one question, guys, like when we are going to get, I mean, out of memory exception. Okay, just I am giving you some kind of the message here. I need your help. When we are going to get, or else when Spark is going to get out of memory exception. Friends, in not direct question, this is bit you need to think through about your Spark driver, first class Spark driver, cluster manager, executor, slot, job, stages, and task. A little bit relevancy is there to this particular question. Okay, so guys, here you need to observe. Okay, you need to observe that how we are managing the convention of when we are going to get okay the convention of out of memory exception. Now the collect method. Okay, so just it is occupying all the driver information and memory. So be cautious because it is fetching all the records which are there. And moreover, if you observe this documentation, guys, it is returning the list actually. Okay, return a list. So if you observe practically, this is starting with this particular bracket. And in Python, list is represented in this way. Okay, within that particular brackets only we are representing the list. That is the reason. Now let us understand the take. Okay, take logically, we can break out that particular records rather than permitting all the records occupy the driver. And it is always easy to us just you can maintain 5 records or 10 records, whichever. And based on those particular records, how many records you want, you can mention that. See here guys, take the first number of elements of the RDD as per the requirement, just you can mention 5, 10 or whichever. Most important thing guys, see here. It works by first scanning one partition, and use the result from that particular partition to estimate the number of additional partition needed to satisfy the limit. Excellent point guys here. Indirectly what we are getting is if you observe the collect, pull all the partitions into the memory. Pull all the partitions into the memory. Partitions are nothing but the actual data points. Whatever the data I'm having, whatever the data I have loaded, that particular data is not possible to fix into a single partition. So obviously, based on the number of records, based on the amount of the data is there in the data set, the appropriate number of partitions are allocated by Spark. Now, if I am using the collect method, your collect method is going to, irrespective of the number of partitions, it is going to pull all the partitions data, all the information, and it is going to place in the driver's memory. Driver's memory, clearly see that guys, because can someone help me? What do you mean by Spark driver, friends? Spark driver. Friends, until these 3 sessions, we are going to get 17 questions in the Databricks examination. I'll give you some sample questions also, as promised earlier. 17 questions we are going to get. 17% of the questions. Okay, suppose if you are having 60 questions, maybe around um, uh, 10 to 11, we are going to get 17% of the questions. Okay, remaining nearby 75% of the questions we are going to get in the data frame API, which we are going to start from tomorrow onwards. Remaining 10 or 12% questions we are going to get in the UDF, optimization techniques, broadcasting, accumulator, all these things. So your 17% and as well as the optimizations 13%. 30% of the questions are these 3 sessions, and for the optimizations we are going to dedicate some 2 sessions. Out of 5 sessions we will be getting the 30% of the questions guys. Remaining 70% from the data frame API, complete all the data frame creations. That is not a big deal actually. It's a simple thing only, but only the problem is I'll show you how they're asking the questions and similar kind of the answers will be given. And sometimes they test our memory. That is only the problem. Otherwise, no problem. So just if your preparation is good and if you are able to understand the question and if you are able to see all the all the options very carefully, then you can pick up the best option. Now the thing is in the collect method, friends, that particular collect irrespective of the storage, just it is pulling all the information because you only instructed. I need the entire data like that it is picking up. But whereas your take is a very wise. Okay, your take is very wise because it works by first scanning one partition and based on the number of records, whether that particular partition is satisfied or not. I mean, whether the user specified information is satisfied or not in terms of number. Okay, because I want to fetch the first 5 records so that it is giving those records only. And according to that particular partition, and it is testing the number of elements. Okay, take the first number of elements of the RDD. It works by first scanning one partition and use the results from that partition to estimate the number of additional partitions needed to satisfy the limit. So what it does is just it is going one partition by another partition. Okay, logically, if the number of records specified by the developer meet the condition of the first partition, it need not go and browse or scan the second partition. Okay, so accordingly, just the take is going to reduce the out of memory kind of thing. Where collect, there are chances, more number of the chances are there so as to perform these kind of the logics. Now the time is to identify how many number of partitions we're having. If you remember guys, just I got this number of partitions as 200 without loading any data. By default, your Spark configuration is giving us. Okay, but now we have loaded our Yahoo stocks data and our RDD, our Yahoo stocks data is available in this RDD, the name given to that. Okay, just you can clearly observe what exactly. Maybe you might have used many RDDs, but you want to fix. You want to use one RDD and you want to confirm whether that particular RDD is containing the data which I am looking for, so that you can have a look on this DBFS file store tables Yahoo stocks.csv. Yes, this is the one we are looking for. Now there is one more thing. Map partitions RDD at text file at native method accessor implementation. Okay, so this is also having some sort of the partition. Okay, it is also used some sort of the partition. Let us try to get how many number of partitions are there. I want to get the a number of partitions. Okay, so there you need not worry about the configurations and all, because to get the default partitions allocated for this kind of the edition, you need to go and pick up all these things. But there is a simple functionality, guys. RTD dot, just if you give the tab, it is providing tons of the functions actually. Okay, so now what we need to give. So let me see any function related to get partition. See here, there is a function called get number of partitions. Just you can pick up that particular thing and you try to run that. Now you see here, guys, only we are having 2 partitions. That means related to your Yahoo stocks, just we are getting that particular number of partitions as 2. Whereas in the earlier case, just without any data loading related to the RDD, just I thought of getting the appropriate partition information by default. Okay, so just you can make use of the convention, how the data loading and how Spark is managing the things automatically. Now maybe you are having some curious. Okay, let me use this particular statement, guys, and I need your answers. So just I am making use of this convention. Don't worry about the functionality. Let me take the result actually. Collect. Okay, just if you are referencing this kind of things, let me see how many of you are going to give the answer in the chat, or you can unmute. What is this reference, guys? We are clear about this thing. There are 2 partitions, but leave this statement, only focus on this thing. However, I will be explaining the statement also. What do you mean by this 605 and 589? What do you mean by that 605 and 589? Okay, just let me pull this aspect and paste into the chat window so that I can see your chats also. Very good, Elias. In a typical Python, you are right. In a typical Python, you are right. But only here the point is this is the partition 1, this is the partition 2. As if logically, if you see, guys, we're having 2 partitions of our RTD. Okay, and the first partition is having 605 records. The second partition is having 589. So that means your partitions, whatever I'm having, partition 1 and partition 2, just they are splitting into the number of records. Now the point is you are not happy with this. Okay, but it's a correct thing only. I mean, splitting of the data nearest. It's not split like skew. 10 records in one partition or some 1,000 records in another partition. It has not done like that, friends. A typical sharing is happened so that we are happy. But sometimes, okay, there is a possibility of allocating some 1,000 here and some 100 in the first partition. It happens. So in that particular case, how to handle this particular repartition and how do we handle the convention? Now observe here, guys. What is this functionality? Return an RDD created by coalesce. Coalesce, in a while, I'm going to talk about that coalesce and repartition, guys. Just wait. coalescing all the elements within each partition into a list. Okay, just it is getting that map. However, we are knowing na? Map. However, we are knowing each and every action. Okay, whatever the functionality I'm having, I want to apply on all the elements. Then I can use the map. Collect is a method where I want to pick up the information. So this particular thing still we are having doubt how we are making use of that coalesce property and what do you mean by repartition, all these kind of the convention. So to jump into that particular aspect, okay, so what I'm doing here is rather than leaving Spark to decide the number of partitions, let me put my analogy like this, guys. Okay, so because I have not mentioned any number of partitions here, guys, just I'm loading my data and I'm happy with whatever the number of partitions given by the Spark. That is a normal programmer do generally. But whereas after getting some sort of the understanding of the Spark, we may think like this also. Okay, why uh, I'm leaving these particular partitions to Spark? Is there any possibility of mentioning this particular information in based on my requirement? Maybe I want to use 5 partitions, or I want to use 10 partitions, or I want to use 100 partitions. So based on that particular convention, is there any possibility? Let me go back to this syntax, guys. If you observe this particular syntax, spark1 dot spark context dot text file, name of the path. Okay, so the number of partitions. Okay, just we are making use of the optional, but you can give that partitions also. Okay, if you observe this particular statement, so there is a possibility. Okay, there is a possibility of mentioning. Okay, there is a possibility of mentioning the kind of the partitions, the number of partitions required by the user. So let us see how I need to change this particular statement. What I'm doing here is, guys, one more RDD I'm taking. Okay, with respect to this particular RDD, what I'm doing here is this time I'm using a typical Spark context is a second method, or else directly I can use the SC also. I can use whatever. So text file. Now I want to pick up the same Yahoo file, whatever I'm having. Let me copy the path. Okay, up to this is common. There is no change because first I need to mention the path as per the syntax. Now what I'm doing here is, guys, just I'm making use of this particular path so as to load the data. And as a second thing, I'm mentioning my number of partitions as 10. Observe here, guys. Just I am not satisfied with the way Spark allocated our allocated partitions to our loading of the data. But I want to take the driver's seat and I want to guide how many number of partitions are there related to our requirement. So just what we are doing, just I am mentioning that whatever the path I'm having, and in the syntax itself, I'm having the possibility of mentioning the number of partitions. Okay, for your sake, just let me pick up this particular thing also. Okay, so if you are making use of this particular convention, obviously we are getting the aspect of the minimum partitions, and of course we have given this 10, the minimum partitions as 10. Now the things get changed, guys. Suppose if I am asking my RDD1 to give the number of partitions. Okay, so just it is answer is pretty simple. This time 10. Now the point I want to ask you is now the point I want to ask you is I am putting the okay, too many questions, friend, but still it is okay. Your default partition size, that is the first one. Second thing is RDD partition without mention by developer. Next aspect is, friends, RDD one partition uh, with developer mention as 10. So can you comment on this, guys? Can you comment on this, guys? Like, default partition sizes we have not loaded any kind of the data and directly we got 200. Okay, let me edit this thing. Uh, let me edit this thing so that you can have the clarity and I can also get some meaningful comments. Here, this has given as 200 and our without mention of the developer, your partition size is 2, but with the developer mention, let me change this partition as a 10. Just have a look and comment on that, guys, in the meantime. Okay, so because these points, one is exclusively acting as a default partition. Second is acting as the RDD partition with the user mention. Third is identifying as without mention by the developer. We are having two partitions and with mention of the developer like 10 I'm using, 20 I'm using. Okay, I can give whatever the number, but it is always meaningful. Maybe after completion of the partitioning and as well as coalesce and repartition, definitely you will be getting the idea about how do I give the number of partitions. But we have to know about in and out and how Spark is behaving by default. If I'm loading the data and before loading the data, what is the standpoint of the Spark? And third important thing is if I am explicitly mentioning, if I am involving in the partitioning, then how Spark is taking my uh, consent or how Spark is giving value to me. All these kind of the conventions may be a little intrinsic, but still you can able to do that, guys. I know you guys. Okay. Yeah. So here we got some 10. Now the point here is we are entering into the Jurassic Park now. So we are okay with these kind of the conventions. And one more venture I want to do is RDD one dot. This time also I want to get a number of partitions and their distribution, how it is performed by Spark. Now have a look on this, guys. Explicitly, I have mentioned this partitions as 10. Earlier, without mentioning, we got some 2 and there are 2 partitions in front of us. But whereas now we are explicitly modifying that particular thing as 10 and we evidentially got the output as 10. Now the point is just to observe that 1, 2, 3, fourth partition, fifth one, sixth, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Okay, now you observe, guys. Okay, how we are able to see these allocation. Though I am giving 10 or 20, it is logically splitting those kind of the partitions very nearest. First partition 126, second is 121, third is 119, fourth one is 121. Like that it span over more or less with 6 to 8 records distinction. It is able to maximum 6, I think, and minimum 1 or 2. Like that it is managing. So there is some logic, guys. If you come across, even we are left with 2 partitions, but still it is able to manage the number of records in the partition 1 and partition 2. Whereas if I am coming across with 10 partitions related to my Yahoo data, in that particular case also I can able to see the equal balance as our friend Surendra said while working with local reducer. Okay, I mean combiner. There is a without combiner there is an imbalance exactly because though we are repeating the data, but still the repetition data should be placed in the network and bandwidth is getting wasted. But whereas how why Spark is you can able to see here, guys, because Spark by design it is a fault tolerant. By design it is optimized. By design it is in memory computing. Okay, by design it is a resilient distributed data set. Okay, so many things yet to cover, guys. But here itself we can realize that how gentle, how best the Spark usage we are enjoying. Okay, now the point is, suppose if I want to perform some sort of the activity, like there where I want to perform some repartition and where I want to perform some kind of the coalesce kind of the property, how do I manage the convention? Okay, because once the orientation of how I am fetching the data and how I am performing the data, these kind of the conventions really help us, okay, to understand the partitions and how to collect the data. Now I'm not happy with these 10 partitions, guys. Rather, I want to go with some 5 partitions. Okay, I want to handle that by that kind of the convention. But before that, let me give you a glance of what do you mean by the partitioning and because we are having some sort of information with us in terms of default partition technique, and as well as thereafter we are having some loading of the text files and then explicitly mention of the number of partitions, all these kind of the conventions. Now the point here is how do I refer, how do I understand the appropriate aspects of the I mean partition kind of things, and as well as how do I manage the convention of understanding the repartition and as well as the coalesce. Okay, let me pull. I compiled something for us in the discussion. Just let me paste these kind of the convention in our OneNote, and we'll study these points where these particular points are really helping us so as to talk, so as to handle the narration of understanding the things. And along with the data partitioning, we are going to talk about the repartition and as well as the coalesce property, which is very, very required for our programming, guys. So if you consider the observation of repartition and coalesce, but before that, we have to identify what exactly the data partitioning. Uh, Technically, we know that what do you mean by a partition and how we are going to get that kind of thing. Just now we have seen default some 200 partitions we have seen. Thereafter, after loading of the data, we are having 2 partitions related to our Yahoo stocks. And as a third kind of thing, along with the data, I can able to mention the number of partitions also. All the 3 cases we have seen. Okay, none of the cases has given a single answer. First case 200, second case is 2, third case is 10. And in a second and third case, we can able to see the distribution of the partitions also. I mean, partition 1 in the first case, second case having 600 change records. In the second partition, we're having 585 records around. Whereas in the third case, though I'm having the 10 partitions, it could able to identify 120, 180, 185, 190, like that. It is going to split the appropriate records into the number of partitions. There should be some logic where without making use of any misconception, like Spark is always trying to handle the optimizations and it is going to perform the appropriate partitions in likewise only. But we want to understand what is the underlying assumption, what is the underlying design, how Spark is able to distribute that particular data. Is there any way of rearranging that particular thing? So we need to have some conceptual understanding along with the programmatical aspect. So that is what the reason we are scoping this study of the data partitioning, and most importantly, repartition and coalesce properties. Okay, so to put in the simplest way, in a distributed program, communication is very expensive. Communication in the sense carrying the data from one component to another component. If you observe in Spark, guys, from the Spark driver up to the level of cluster manager, and then from Spark driver to the executors, and from executors to the Spark driver, there should be always a message passing. If you are not taking care, if you are not aware of what's going on behind the hood, and you will be lost, because now we are working with the community edition. No problem. Even we are running our cluster extra. But whereas if you are using AWS, GCP or Azure, we cannot left and right use our cluster, guys, because it incurs additional amount of the usage. So obviously our billing goes like anything. So we need to avoid such kind of the practices. And of course, I'll be bringing all these best practices also, guys. But still, let us understand this point first. Now, the point here is, guys, just if you consider the partitioning kind of the aspect in a distributed program. Communication is very expensive. So laying out data to minimize network traffic can greatly improve the performance. Already we have seen in terms of map and reduce. Already we have seen in terms of combiner how we are able to perform that. Now, much like how a single node program needs to choose the right data structure for a collection of the records. Okay, so of course, guys, here partitioning, memory loading, access, all these comes under the category of the data structure. Can someone help me? What do you mean by a data structure? What exactly the term data structure refers? Data structure in a simplest way. Data structure. You need not go to Ellen Weiss book of the data structure. John J. Ullman, Ellen Weiss. Okay, classical data structures by Samantha. Okay, you need not go back. Just you with your experience of software developer. Can you help me to understand the data structure, logical arrangement of the data, structuring the data? Like so suppose if I'm considering the data structures in Python, we are having the list, dictionary, set. Okay, tuple, all these are the data structures. These data structures provide some way of storing the data. By default, they're having some properties, whereas tuple mutability and list immutable. Like that, we're having some sort of things. Okay, the properties, otherwise, set, which is not allowing the kind of repetitions. Okay, so those data structures are having some sort of characteristics, guys. Logical arrangement of the data, structuring the data, where the ultimate goal of this data structure is to provide a storage logic, and it also provide based on the storage logic, it also provides the access logic also. So while working with the data structures, maybe stack or queue or linked list or tree or AVL tree or binary search tree, each and every data structure is having some sort of the mechanism to store the data and to access the data. While working with those kind of the data structures, you need to follow how they are storing internally. Accordingly, you need to go with the access mechanisms. Okay, but the good news here is, guys, in terms of the typical data structures and algorithms, your programming logic should be very high. Okay, so that's what the reason so many companies are asking us to prove your talent in terms of efficiency and space and time utilization while using the data structures, and many of the questions you'll be getting from these AVL tree, binary search tree, graphs, all these kind of things. But Spark is making our life easy, and of course it is giving us the flexibility of optimizations by default. You need to uh, observe, you need to understand that particular optimizations which are provided by Spark. That is only the requirement. Now, at the moment I am talking about this data partitioning, just it is providing, okay, much like how a single node program needs to choose the right data structure for a collection of records. Spark programs can choose to control their RDD's partitioning to reduce communication. See here, guys, it's a twofold actually. It's a twofold. Why I am saying twofold is in second example, okay, without having any kind of the specification, I can able to observe partitions as two in the second case. Whereas in the third case, I have given some 10. So there is a Spark programs can choose to control their RDDs partitioning to reduce the communication. So ultimate aim of partitioning is, guys, okay, reduce communication. Okay, why we need to reduce the communication? To avoid the network traffic or to avoid the network bandwidth. Why I need to avoid? Because that is very expensive. Okay, because one more point I referred, guys, in the earlier session. Can someone help me? What do you mean by shuffle? What do you mean by shuffle? Let me put in this way. Partition 1, partition 2, partition 3, and I'm having some output individually, output 1, output 2, which is very particular to that particular partition. But whereas in the other way around, I'm having partition 1, 2, and 3, and my output results are there. And if partition 1 is required to perform the output such as sorting and all these kind of things, now you see it is taking much more network bandwidth and it is performing all the kind of the connects. And there we named this as a narrow transformation. This we have named as a wide transformation. Friends, these particular topics are connected topics actually. So that you need to observe the partition technique along with the shuffling aspect. Shuffling is more expensive. We need to understand what exactly the shuffle. Shuffle is something like based on the partitions. Okay, I'm having certain partitions and I want to perform some kind of the activity related to the output results, related to the outputs. So if any, without any shuffling, I can able to get a single partition in terms of the output, that is a narrow. Whereas wide is something different. Whereas your partition 1 involves in all the outcomes, partition 2 and partition 3 also. So here the thing is partitioning will not be helpful in all applications. Definitely. For example, if a given RDD is scanned only once, there is no point in partitioning it in advance, because I want to get only one time okay scan of my data, and I am not interested to perform any filter or any mapping or any flat map, or I don't want to use my RDD, then you are free to use the second method. What is the second method, guys? Just RDD equal to text file and specify the path. Whereas the other option, you want to perform, okay, so you want to perform some further activities, some optimization kind of thing. Definitely the next thing, RDD1 equal to, along with the path, you have to mention the number of partitions. So it all depends on the programmer, or it all depends on the developer, guys. There is no insist, there is no mandatory, because that is what the reason, guys. The remaining technologies and Spark is giving us many flexibilities. That's what, even though I'm covering 100 topics, maybe you can come up with one or one topic. And day by day, our Spark designers are releasing many kind of the aspects. Of course, as much as possible, we are going to talk. Don't worry. But still, why I'm saying is it is you to leverage yourself. Okay, just I will give the entire aspects, and I will try our best in terms of certification, in terms of understanding, implementation, even up to the level of machine learning also we are doing along with some capstone project. So, but all with all due care, just your interest, your access points are most important. Okay, how we are going back and preparing, and how we are researching on these particular aspect. Okay, how we are trying hard. Okay, always we have to learn in the hard way, guys, not in the shortest path, because once you learn this particular technology, it is going to be with you only. Maybe with one good habit, or maybe one learning of the programming language. All these things are staying with us. Okay, so that we need to learn in a proper way. Okay, I know all of you guys are having that inclination. I'm fortunate to have you in the call, guys. Definitely. Right. It is useful only when a data set is reused multiple times in key oriented operations such as joins. Excellent point. Suppose I'm having some join operation. I'm having some kind of the filter. Maybe I'm having some sort of conditional statements. So in that particular case, maybe key oriented, I want to perform some activity based on some key. Okay, in that particular aspect only, we are going to have the usage of this understanding of this partition technique, guys. Okay, up to this we are convinced, because now we came to know that partition is something where either can be done by the programmer or else Spark automatically does. Second important thing is, but still partition is playing a vital role in the optimizations, provided if your data set, if you want to utilize, or if you want to apply some complex operation, or if you want to apply some sort of mechanism where I want to use my data set in the join operation or in some sort of the applications then I have to go back and use the partition technique. Okay, that thing is okay. Now, what we are doing is suppose I'm not satisfied with whatever the partition done by my team member. Okay, team member one, and we have discussed with other team members also, and we decided that we have to change these particular partitions which already allocated earlier. Okay, all the discussion, like in a project, definitely we need to have the discussion. As a teamwork, we generally implement the projects. We should be on the same page, like how other member is doing and how it is reflecting as a whole, as a complete project. Now, in this particular case, we are having the possibility of understanding the partition technique in terms of repartition and as well as the coalesce. Very, very required topic, guys. At least 2 to 3 questions will be getting in the certification also. Now, what is partition? So data sets are huge in size, so they cannot fit into a single node. And so they have to be partitioned across different nodes. Because that too, you are using a single node cluster, especially in our case, and it is our responsibility to license these particular partitions into number of phases, as I cannot fit all those things into a single memory location. So your partition in Spark is basically an atomic chunk of data stored on a node in the cluster. Is a chunk of the data. Of course, we know that, and we have seen the distinction also. In the two partition case, I'm having partition 1 and partition 2. In 10 card partition case, I'm having up to 1 to 10. These are all the chunks of the data. Is a portion of the data. Okay, right. One partition cannot span over multiple machines. Most important point, guys. Can someone help me why one partition cannot span over multiple machines? Let me ask you this thing. Don't worry, guys. We'll have a break. Why one partition cannot span over to multiple machines? Most important understanding. Why one partition cannot span over to multiple machines? Okay, think through. Now, if you are considering this one important point, one partition cannot span over multiple machines. So whatever the partition I'm having with respect to that machine only, I need to handle that. That is the most important note we have to observe. And Spark automatically partitions RDDs or data frames and distribute the partition across different nodes. It is a part of Spark design principle, guys. You need not explicitly mention that. Hardly you need to mention how many partitions you want. Spark will take care about that. Okay, we can also configure the optimal number of partitions. Yeah, this point is also having too few or having many is not good. Because guys, in the memory orientation, load balancing is important. I don't want to overload a particular node and I'm leaving other nodes as free. That is also not good. Whereas if you are plenty of partitions are there, but I am not having any purpose for that. Okay, too few means too too high means 1,000. Both are dangerous only. So in between some optimal things we have to see. Okay, that is by experience we can see that how I manage the partitions. Okay, there are certain rules. Okay, just will come across those kind of the conventions. Now, how Spark does the default partitioning? This already we have seen, guys. Because without mentioning, Spark is also having the knowledge on how I need to perform the how I perform the partition of the data. A little thing, guys, like always Spark refers to the Hadoop distributed file system. One of the aspect is in Hadoop 1, there is a block size called 64 MB. Hadoop 3, it is 128 MB. And of course, in 2 or 3, you can leverage up to 256 MB also. No problem. Now, what is the reason behind this is Hadoop follows the block size. Okay, so what do you mean by block size is assume that I'm having 256 MB block size. I'm having the 256 MB block size. Now my file 1 is requiring 500 MB. 500 MB. Now see guys here, to store 500 MB. Okay, to store 500 MB, how many blocks are required guys here? Each 250 na? So two blocks are required. Two blocks are required. So in one block is 250, another block is 250. Of course, some fragmentation would be there, leave it. Now the point is, if I am talking about the Hadoop distributed file system, my replication factor is 3. What do you mean by replication factor is each file should be stored in 3 times. Now tell me guys, 500 MB file size with 256 MB block, how many number of blocks are required? Okay, friends, can you answer this? Because in Hadoop, maybe I can go with the 64 MB, 128 MB or 256 MB. Okay, I opted for this 256 MB. That means my each block is having 256 MB. I want to store 500 MB file. Logically, two blocks are required. Provided this 500 MB will be split into two blocks, it enter into the 250, 250. Now the replication factor is 3. Now my question is, how many blocks do I need to have? How many blocks I need to have? Simple computing na? Simple computing only na? Let me see in the chat window. Yes, 6 blocks were in there. Correct, exactly. Vedant. Right. Reason is simple, guys, because initially uh, file one, file one, file one. Two blocks, two blocks, two blocks. Total 6. That's all. Now we are going back to our understanding. See here. Spark checks the Hadoop block size. Spark checks the Hadoop block size. The HDFS block size of Hadoop 1.0 is 64. Hadoop 2.0 or ARN is 128 MB. It creates one partition for each block size. That is the analogy, friends. There is no rocket science, definitely. Maybe you're having doubt why initially we have been shown 200 partitions and why now we are seeing only 2 by default. And after 10, of course, we calculatedly we have done our partition so that we could able to get that convention. Okay, so now if I am taking the 256 MB, I need 2 partitions. If I am taking 128 MB, obviously I need the 4 partition. That is simple analogy. That is what the reason, guys. We cannot leave Hadoop behind. Okay, while learning the Spark. Okay, in fact, Hadoop I generally practice Scoop and Flume so that whenever there is a requirement, definitely I can put up all these things. Maybe machine learning. Yes, I can deal. And I'm having the Databricks kind of thing related to the data engineering. And also, as a certified Hadoop developer, so just I'm having the convention of, all these kind of the block sizes, map reduce aspects, Hadoop streaming, how to understand those kind of the conventions. So just to complete that particular circle of understanding, we have to have some sort of the understanding related to this topic also. Okay, I know guys, this is the time for break. Definitely we have to take the break. So, but before taking the break, let me give you the key takeaways of the session up to the break. Okay, key takeaways. Friends, one simple game. Just I'll wait for 2 minutes. Just you can type in the chat window, which are all the key takeaways. Okay, so just refer. Key takeaways up to now? Okay, just come up with your analogy, guys. There is no restriction. Okay, only one. Just you refer the outline only. Topics we have covered. Okay, just the topics we have covered. Key takeaways up to now. The start will take 2 minutes and then we'll have a break. Akhil started, or Shanmuga started. Map, reduce, combiner, partitioning. Very good. Akhil says distinguish between HDFS and Spark, of course. Shashikant says HDFS Spark, right? Jatin saying map, reduce and combiner working. Kannan has given air. Oh, only 5 members are there in the call, but I am seeing around 39 something. Hmm. Yes, yes. Come on, come on. Okay, excellent, excellent friends. That is the spirit. Okay. So only the thing is, if you start exploring, it is like a you know learning is somewhat thirsty. Okay, once you involve in the learning, that's what if you are making use of learning in a proper way, involvement, and whenever there is a possibility of showcasing your talent in terms of communication, friends, once in the meetings also, so don't keep quiet. Okay, ask the valid question. Suppose if someone is demonstrating, you see that how they are exhibiting, and if you are having any doubts, just you if it is online, then you can open the chat and you can directly post to that member. Or else if it is a group or team meeting, you can share your thoughts through message, or you can unmute yourself. More questions, more involvement. Like, it is your career, guys. Don't think that this project is someone else. The responsibility is some leader or some project manager. Not like that. If you are involving, if you are exploring, okay, automatically you will be getting that driver seat, guys. If you see the members who are really excelling in your teams, they are definitely the members who acquire more, who question more. But in the questioning there are certain aspects like it's not to test some others. That is wrong, guys. We cannot. Okay, because some members may be having the talents which we don't have. Okay, we have to give that space, but only the knowledge based. I'm saying, like, it's not like killing the other member by asking. Not like that. The thing is, whatever the project launch or in the project or after completion of the project, based on your scope, based on the reference of that, just you put the questions, try to get the essence of that particular understanding. Then definitely, guys, you are going to excel. Okay, putting more questions, trying to understand, it shows your capability. And there is some proverb. Okay, you can easily estimate a member by seeing his questions rather than the answers. While talking something or while explaining about some kind of the project, based on his caliber, based on his talent, he can put some questions. Sometimes the organizer or presenter also need to go back and study something, and it's not like that always your questions will be answered. But if it is a valid question, definitely along with the team, that presenter can go back and research on that. He can venture, he can handle the kind of the convention. So that is what the reason why I always insist you guys to participate more so that to learn more. Okay, it's not like to irritate you or something. We are all on the same boat of learning. Okay, so if you are giving your consent, if you are giving, and that too, I'm not cornering you, just I'm letting you to explore yourself, whatever the understanding you had. Okay, and after 2 or 3 days, definitely I'll pick some members individually. So I ask you rather than typing, just you can explain yourself. That practice also will do, because this course is designed in such a way that just both technically and as well as your functional development. So someone asks you what you are doing, what exactly this topic is. Can you explain something about that? In a crisp and clear way, you need to explain the convention, guys. So in front of your friends, you can have that kind of the aspect. Okay, definitely we'll do those kind of the ventures in future. Okay, so thank you very much, and let me start the Google timer. Okay, so that we can without missing, we can make use of the timing efficiently. And once we'll be after coming back, just I'm going to explain you the convention of okay, how we are making use of the repartition technique and how we are going to talk about the coalesce, and excellent topics are there, friends. Persistent and cache. Okay, very good and simple. Okay, you